Hi class. Today we're going to move on to a topic that might seem a little more appropriate at the front end of a course such as this. And it's one that one often encounters in a standard textbook on human resource management. And that is the hiring process, and more specifically the screening process. And this is an area that I really want to emphasize, and I think it's rightly an area of focus and special focus. And it has to do with essentially choosing the right people for the job. To put it in a really reductionist way, similarly, it's choosing the right tool for a job. I happen to have a mechanical background. My father was an aircraft mechanic, and we would do all of our own work on our cars. So from a very early age, I came to appreciate how a job can become extremely difficult and or extremely easy depending upon the tools that you had in your toolbox. And so to carry that forward, when you're talking about staffing an organization, you want to staff it with the right people, and the right people in the right positions. Now, that's where screening comes in, and very often we'll associate it with the idea that you want to get the best, the highest caliber, the most credentialed, or at least the most educated person in there. The two not being necessarily the same thing, by the way. I'll give you a couple of examples. One more or less out of the professions, and that is when you look at going into medical school. The bar to enter a medical school is extremely high, and it's a grueling process really to get into those ranks. And so that's part of their screening process. Basically, they screen first and foremost for your technical ability to do that particular job, and especially in terms of understanding chemistry and math and all of those other elements, basic biological processes, biochemical interactions, etc. Anatomy, of course, all that stuff. And so it's really kind of a screening of will. Do you have the will to carry on with this job? When you do finally get into medical school, then there's generally a very low washout rate because the will has been demonstrated, the basic competencies are there, the willingness to learn all of those myriad elements that are required of a physician are already accounted for. Now, you get variations on this theme elsewhere, but it generally holds true that by the time one gets in, again, I'll just use the medical school analogy, your mind is made up. Your identification with that profession is, in essence, sealed, with very few exceptions. You become a doctor, you remain a doctor, and you're dedicated to that. Now I'll give you a kind of an interesting alternate view of this, and it's from an experience that I had when I was at University of Texas at Tyler. Tyler, Texas, among other things, had a very large tire plant, which has now gone away, as many manufacturing plants have in this country. But Kelly Springfield, one of only 2 American tire manufacturers, by the way, the other being Cooper Tires, had a very large, and it was a state-of-the-art plant, and it was highly guarded, highly secure, almost in a military sense, because it was a highly automated plant, and at that time, kind of more or less state-of-the-art, and they wanted to keep it that way. They wanted to keep industrial espionage at a minimum. Their screening process was fascinating to me because I did finally get a rare opportunity to visit the plant as part of an academic delegation. I guess we were safe enough. They had a very lengthy screening process. It would go on for several weeks, and it wasn't simply a probationary period, which you often get for new hires. This had to do with going through a number of tests. And the fascinating thing to me about that was that they weren't necessarily, in fact, they weren't at all testing for your ability to go into the job, do the job, and then ultimately rise up through the ranks. In fact, they were really screening against that. They did not want people with ambition, believe it or not. They wanted people, and they would screen for this. They would screen for people who were willing to get paid a very good wage, but a wage to drive a forklift the rest of their lives. If you had ambitions, if you expected to rise into a management capacity, there was no need for you there because, as I said, it was an automated plant and their management team really came in from the outside, and that's the way they ran things. They weren't interested in grooming or developing internally. A little bit odd, and maybe that explains also why Kelly Springfield is no longer with us. But that said, it was fascinating to me, and a lesson that maybe we should take with us. You want to screen for the right people. In the case of Kelly Springfield, they needed forklift operators, and forklift operators who were going to be very happy basically being the bubba who rides that forklift for the rest of their lives. So you can screen for that. You can screen out ambition, in other words. Now, hopefully we don't have that in too many public organizations, but it's an area that we want to, again, kind of spend some attention to. Screening for the right talent set for the job that you're wanting done within that organization. So we'll start with that as our point of departure and see where that takes us. Okay? Okay, and keep up with the readings, and we'll be returning later on this week for some other lessons. Thanks.